Welcome to Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. This Day Weather Podcast being brought to you by Wyoming State Parks. Celebrate Wyoming's firearms and outdoor recreation industry at the second annual Wyoming Firearms and Outdoor Recreation Expo in Casper this Saturday, July 20th from 11 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. The pattern is going to be dominated by temperatures not being as hot and afternoon and evening thunderstorm activity. We saw quite a bit of showers and thunderstorms in the region yesterday afternoon and evening. Some of you got some good rain. Some of you got a lot of wind and a little bit of rain. These thunderstorms are going to be in place. Subtropical moisture is going to be around. The thunderstorm activity will ebb and flow. What do I mean by that? Well, there's going to be some days where there's going to be a few thunderstorms. Some days the thunderstorms, kind of like yesterday, will be more widespread and more active, as the thunderstorms are going to be a function of how much subtropical moisture there is and whether or not we have some small disturbances embedded in the high pressure ridge coming around that will enhance the thunderstorm. Some days they'll be more enhanced, some days they won't. We'll show you that here in a minute. The long-term pattern is looking pretty interesting. There's some subtle changes going on. We're going to see the high pressure ridge build back to the far western areas of the United States. That'll cause the jet stream to take a bit of a dip into the nation's midsection. And actually the Corn Belt, the Midwest, parts of the northern plains and Great Lakes will have below average July temperatures, while the biggest heat will go back into the far west and southwest United States. And in the middle, between those two different air masses, temperatures will be close to average, which will be a lot of front range areas. We'll show you that here in a minute. Also, we have some interesting things to show you about the current La Niña situation. Beautiful sunrise yesterday out on the plains of eastern Wyoming. And also, after a strong thunderstorm going through, nice double rainbow there. But we still have some smoky, hazy conditions, especially up into those northern areas. Hopefully these thunderstorms will put rain down on some of the fire activity and clear out the air a little bit. The high pressure ridge this morning over north central areas of New Mexico, definitely getting flattened out a little bit. The clockwise flow bringing moisture up out of Mexico into the region. This configuration of the jet stream, notice there's a trough here in south central Canada, and winds aloft are coming in from the northwest into the upper Midwest. This is going to be a theme for the next 7 to 10 days. High pressure in the far west, low pressure in a trough in the nation's midsection. The satellite imagery this morning shows last night's thunderstorm activity continuing and heading off to the south and east. Subtropical moisture isn't as deep today. There's a little bit of a tongue of drier air coming into northern and northwestern Wyoming and southwest Montana, but there's plenty of green and white elsewhere. And this is going to be the area today where we're probably going to have the most active thunderstorms. And there you can see it. Thunderstorm chances will be highest central Nebraska into Kansas, southeastern Colorado, and the panhandles. Scattered thunderstorms will be found elsewhere, but the activity today probably for many of you will be less than it was yesterday, but it's going to ebb and flow. So this is where the risk of stronger thunderstorms will be today, a little bit further out to the east, but the lighter shaded green means general thunderstorm activity, but the more severe threat will be in the yellow and the darker green areas. Tomorrow, well, the moisture flow is back towards the front range again. A bit more activity is showing up along and west of the divide, and certainly up and over and near the mountain areas. And the marginal risk for severe weather backs westward up to the front range areas of Wyoming, Colorado, northeastern New Mexico. And that is where the moisture is likely going to be, and the thunderstorms tomorrow, Thursday into Friday, will be more towards the front range and adjacent plains. And you can see the general coverage elsewhere. Cooler, drier air punches into the upper Midwest, taking temperatures below average and drying things out a little bit. That'll be taking us into Wednesday, and this is Thursday. Very similar pattern, and there's Thursday again. You see the pattern very similar to Wednesday. So thunderstorms more east today, more spotty and scattered elsewhere, coming back along to the front range and eastern plains of the Rockies and along and near the mountains of the Continental Divide, and some thunderstorms on the western slope as well. As we get into Friday, the high pressure ridge, notice it's actually retrograding slowly back to the west again. Then we get this amplified flow. This is pretty amplified for the middle of July. Amplified meaning you don't have the big dips. A lot of times in the summer, the flows tends to be more west to east, the jet stream more up to the north. But this is a pretty good dip. So the trajectory of the air into the Midwest is coming out of north central areas of Canada. While desert heat will dominate here in the southwestern United States, but also there is going to be subtropical moisture bringing showers and thunderstorms to Mexico and occasionally getting into the southwestern United States. So this is still going to bring subtropical moisture in the far west, cooler than average weather into the Midwest and the Great Lakes. And you'll see that reflected in the temperatures. These are the temperature anomalies. When I show you these anomalies, this is the temperature forecast, taking the high and the low temperatures, averaging them out for a day, and comparing them to the 30-year average. So to the 30-year average, cooler than average conditions in the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the East, warmest relative to the averages in the Pacific Northwest, Western Canada, and notice in between the white kind of coming through here. So it'll be warmest west of the divide, Pacific Northwest and Western Canada. That is cool for July in the nation's midsection, and this takes us through Saturday. So temperatures along an east of the divide will be warm, but certainly the record-breaking, worry about record-breaking heat, especially in this area, you're just not going to have it. It's going to be summer warm, but just not terribly hot. The warmer temperatures will be west of the divide. Looking towards Wednesday of next week, the high is back into southern Nevada. Strong jet stream winds for this time of year, again, taking another dip. Okay, as long as this happens, that's going to keep any hurricane activity probably at bay, at least here for a little bit longer. It's also going to cause a penetration of cooler than average conditions along an east of the divide, warmer west of the divide, so you can pretty much slice the nation and North America into two. And look at this. This is for the period of this weekend through the middle of next week. Look at the bullseye of cool in Missouri there. Very, very cool. Warmest, again, that's basically the same pattern. Then in between front range areas and out east, you're going to be a little cooler than average. The heat's going to be into the interior west from California through Nevada, Arizona, through Boise, eastern Washington and Oregon, up into Alberta and British Columbia. But the eastern half of North America is exactly the opposite. So that'll slow down the corn growth there in the Midwest, where they usually want it to be pretty warm this time of year. Well, that's a very interesting pattern and a little bit of a departure from how it was looking. And one reason may be, and this is interesting, and we'll examine this in some future podcasts coming on up. This is the latest sea surface temperature anomaly as of this weekend, and you can see the thin blue line here is the developing La Niña, with sea surface temperature anomalies warmer than average north and south of that. But this is a developing La Niña that we've been talking about. But based on what has come out on the new seasonal forecast, at the beginning of each month, we get new long-range forecasts that come out from the European model and the Canadian model, the climate forecast system model. That updates more frequently. But what is interesting about the European model is this. This starts in July and goes through January. Notice the blue fades. It doesn't look as robust. What is looking to be a trend now is that, yes, we've got a weak La Niña coming in, but it doesn't look like it's going to be nearly as strong. See how it fades right as we get into December and January? This is a departure. Now, you got to be very careful with sea surface temperature forecast. It's difficult. There's a lot of variables. But one thing that the European is showing, the Canadian and the CFS, the climate forecast system, is showing, is that maybe this La Niña is not going to be as strong, nor maybe last as long as it looked. We'll just have to see what next month's update looked like. But this is a little bit of a trend change, kind of something that's looking different than it did a couple of months ago in terms of how robust the La Niña will be. This is not surprising, as we're near the solar maximum, and the La Niñas near the solar maximum don't tend to last long. So we may find ourselves by spring, summer of next year, a year from now, not a La Niña, but maybe into an El Nino or somewhere in between. So this is a little bit of a wild card and we'll discuss this later. And this is maybe going to have implications for the upcoming winter season as well. Have yourself a good Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.